Horse beef here. What's going on, everybody? I want to talk about UFC 323, which is coming up this week, and I completely forgot that it was coming up this soon after last numbered card, and this fucking card is just stacked from top to bottom, man. So let's just get into the early prelim opener, Muhammad Naimov versus Myron Santos. Now, when I first looked at this matchup, I was convinced by the Myron Santos pick. But I think about his last two performances. I forget his first fight in the UFC, but I think it was Francis Marshall. And he arguably lost that fight. In my opinion, he probably deserved to lose that fight. And then his last one against Sadiq Youssef was extremely close. And I don't know, I feel like Myron Santos just has not looked very convincing in his first two UFC fights. While Muhammad Naimov, he's fought pretty tough competition. He's been successful against most of them. He can mix it up. He can strike. He can wrestle. And I feel like he has just too much for Myron. Myron, he's a striker, right? He's a striker first. He's a sharpshooter. He's a sniper. And I feel like these types of strikers generally get frozen up by the more well-rounded fighters like Naimov who can mix it up on you. So I'm just going to pick Muhammad Naimov by a decision here over Myron Santos. Then we get Mansour Abdul-Malik versus Antonio Trocoli. Now, if I remember correctly, his last fight, it wasn't a loss, right? It was a no contest because there was some kind of a foul involved, maybe a headbutt. I'm kind of blanking on what exactly it was. But Trocoli is being fed to him. My opinion, Trocoli is not very good as far as the UFC caliber goes. And I believe he's coming off of two finished losses. I think he got knocked out by Shara and also subbed by Trishan Gore. I don't know. I see a knockout here for Mansour Abdul-Malik. I think he'll get it probably in the first round. Yeah, I'm going to pick first round. Then we get Iwo Baraniewski, you know what I mean? Versus Ibo Aslan. Now, every time I pick Ibo Aslan, he seems to let me down. He's just not very good, if I'm being real. He's not very good. I don't feel like Ibo Aslan is a great fighter. He loads up on big punches. He has gyno. The man is rocking titties. So that's weird as well. That's suspicious. And it could be against my better judgment, but I'm going to pick Iwo here. Iwo over Ibo. I know Baraniewski has like 6 fights overall, and he's undefeated. Yet another undefeated prospect the UFC is bringing in hopes that they can actually fulfill their potential. And I believe he can, dude. From what I've seen from Iwo, he loves a big overhand. He loves some ground and pound. He just has more methods to victory here. I feel like Ibo Aslan, he very much relies on landing a big punch, and that's pretty much it. If you get him out of the first round and he's already thrown about 10 big overhands, he seems to slow down to the point where he's just incredibly predictable. Baraniewski, I believe, can take this man down, ground and pound, finish him. I'm going to pick a TKO. I think he'll TKO Ibo Aslan in the second round. I can see it in the first round. I don't know. There's lots of unknowns with Iwo, obviously, but from what we've seen from Ibo, I haven't been overly impressed personally. And I get that I'm only Horse Beef MMA, so who gives a shit what I think. But Iwo gets it done, and then we move on. Oh my goodness, man. The return of Jalen Turner, and it just has to be against one of my all-time favorites in Edson Barboza. Look at the cockeye on this man in that picture. Oh man, all the damage has really been catching up to him. I think he's pushing 40 at this point, and I know his physique hasn't changed. If anything, he seems to get more jacked with age, which is his testosterone levels seem to be increasing with age, which is very, very unique and very natural. Obviously, the guy is just jacked and sauced out of his mind. However, he's moving back up to lightweight at this stage in his career. It could help him. It could help his durability because he hasn't looked very durable in his last few fights, especially. But he's just slowing down so much, Edson. He doesn't have the same type of pop explosiveness as he once did. His kicks are still absolute pistons, for sure they are. But Jalen Turner, he retired at a weird time. He did. He retired at a very strange time. He's back. He's younger. He's fucking dangerous. He's had time to recharge. I think he's going to KO Edson Barboza, and I hate to say it, but it's exactly how I see this fight going, and I think it's exactly how most people see this fight going. If Edson's able to chop up the legs and maybe exploit Jalen Turner's lack of dog, right? Because that's the one thing. Edson Barboza has the dog in him. Jalen Turner has shown to not really have that dog. When push comes to shove, he can wilt a little bit. So if Edson's able to bring it to the third, maybe cause him to wilt and then start ripping body shots, start ripping those round kicks to the body, right? Chopping the legs down. Maybe he, attacks the legs early as he definitely should here. If Edson wants any chance in this fight, he has to attack the legs early, break down the base of Jalen Turner. but I definitely see a first-round knockout here for Jalen Turner and a successful return for the man. Nothing against Jalen Turner, though. I feel like having him back in the 155 landscape, it makes the division a bit more exciting. There are some cool matchups on the cards for Jalen Turner, so I'm hoping that he sticks around for a little bit, you know what I mean? And doesn't retire again after another loss or two. But let's move on to Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. Now, I think this is almost a layup for Vettori in a way, unless Bruno Ferreira's Hulk power is enough to finally crack the chin of Marvin Vettori. I just feel like Marvin, his forward pressure, his simple boxing will be enough in this one. And once he gets Bruno Ferreira against the fence, which I believe he will, shoot for some legs, mix it up on him, I think he will skate by to a comfortable decision against Bruno Ferreira. This one might not be the most enjoyable fight of all time, may not be the most entertaining of all time, but I believe this is one where Marvin Vettori will finally pick up a win. But if he can't get this one done and he's finally knocked out for the first time, then I would say it may be time for Marvin Vettori to retire, because without that chin, Marvin Vettori is not hanging in there with the top of the division by any means. And then we get an absolute fucking banger, and I'm watching Macy Barber and Karina Silva above this fight somehow. This fight should be this fight, honestly, as far as entertainment value goes, on paper, could easily be a main card fight. Nazem Sadykhov's last fight against Nicholas Mota is one of the best fights I've seen in so long. The fact that he got rocked pretty bad, right, was getting peppered up against the fence, and then he comes back, lands Tekken combos on Nicholas Mota, and then gets the finish, I think, in the second round. That fight was such a barn burner, and I'm kind of blanking on what Faraz Ziam's last fight was, but the last one I remember is his fight against Mike Davis, where his leg was contorted in a way that made, I'm sure, everyone watching scratch their head and left us quite perplexed. I'm not sure how his leg was bending in this way. Apparently he has no need for ligaments. So Nazem Sadykhov is going up against literal Stretch Armstrong in this fight. Huge test for him, really. And Faraz Ziam is no joke. He's well-rounded, he can wrestle, he can strike, he's long, he's lanky, he has a crazy build. But I do favor Nazem Sadykhov in this fight. I can see him getting on the inside, landing some big combinations. This one is going to be a war, and I think Nazem Sadykhov will just get by with superior damage, bigger moments in the fight, but he has to avoid the clinch, because Faraz Ziam in the clinch with that build, dude, he can get those knees out there, as we saw against Matt Frevola. He can get that knee up there from any which angle. It does not matter. This dude is a danger in the clinch, but Nazem, he's just such a little scrappy guy, right? Look at his torso in that picture too, by the way. Guy looks like he's ready to battle. Right, the way he's flexing, man. Huge fan of Nazem Sadykhov. He's such a dog. He really is such a dog. And I think he will win a decision here against Faraz Ziam. And this one has fight of the night, fight of the month, fight of the year contender written all over it. This one will be an absolute barn burner, and this is my prediction for fight of the night. Obviously, Pantoja versus Van, depending on how that one plays out. Marab versus Peter Yan, depending on how that one plays out. We could get fight of the nights there. But early prediction here, this one will be fight of the night, and it's almost a lock. It's almost a lock. These dudes will scrap it out, and if this fight sucks, then I have no more faith in the UFC whatsoever. Macy Barber versus Karina Silva. I just don't really care, man. I really don't care about this fight. I'm going to pick Macy Barber by decision, and I will elaborate no more on that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, man. Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Now, this one's tough. This one's really tough, because if you back Terrence McKinney's ability to get Chris Duncan out of there in the first round, then you will absolutely be picking Terrence McKinney, because this man has never seen a decision in his entire life. But Chris Duncan is a dog, and he is the kind of fighter who can weather the early storm. We saw it against Mateusz Trubisky. These two, or both those dudes, weathered a crazy storm against one another. And he's just a Scottish dog in there. He is. And I think he will avoid getting subbed or knocked out by Terrence McKinney. And then past that first round, the world is Chris Duncan's oyster. And I'm going to predict a second round TKO for Chris Duncan. I can see a sub as well. I can see a decision victory. I just feel like Chris Duncan wins this one. He dogs it out in the first round and then finishes Terrence McKinney later on in the fight. Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. Ooh-wee-wee-wah, man. Grant Dawson has one method of victory here, and I think the only way is to either sub him or take him down and just wet blanket him. But Manuel Torres hits hard as shit. Grant Dawson got quote-unquote chinned by Bobby Green. Of course, we've gone over that fight in a past video about how that one may or may not be fixed, right? But Grant Dawson, if he got knocked up by Bobby Green like that, then presumably the guy's a little bit chinny. And Manuel Torres hits like a truck, man. He chinned the great Crimson Chin in Drew Dober. And he's just so superior on the feet. He's very, very sharp. And I think he's going to knock out Grant Dawson. And I'm going to say in the first round, I will not elaborate much more on it. Manuel Torres is legit. And yeah, I'm saying Grant Dawson will get finished here. And then we have Jan Blachowicz, man, the main card opener. I feel like Nazem Sadykhov versus Ziam maybe could have even been on the main card over this fight, just because we rarely see Jan Blachowicz. He's gotten up there in age. Of course, his bone density is still the same. He can still kick your leg off. But I think this is the perfect time for Bogdan Guskov to go out there and get a high-profile win. Jan Blachowicz has just been so inactive. And if this was any other younger, more active version of Jan Blachowicz, then I would for sure pick him against Guskov. But I don't know. I feel like at his age, this is the perfect time, right? Guskov, he could knock him out, maybe. Jan's a very tough dude, though. But I could see a knockout here. Decision. I'm not sure if Jan Blachowicz is at his best anymore. And I know people will point to the fact that he had a close decision that he arguably won with Carlos Ulberg. But Carlos Ulberg was just dancing around, throwing tippy-top leg kicks. And yeah, he deserved to lose that fight, in my opinion, just for fighting like that. But Bogdan Guskov will not be doing that. And what we've seen in recent fights is that Jan Blachowicz has a hard time letting his hands go. And when he does, he looks in the mud. He looks very slow. He does. He looks very, very slow. He may have to wrestle here. But I'm going to pick Guskov by decision. Maybe damage-based decision. But I could even see a first round, second round knockout here for Guskov. I don't know. I'm picking Guskov either way. And my final prediction will be, I hate to say it, knockout. Second round knockout for Guskov, not even necessarily because I rate Guskov very highly, but just because of the stage of the career that Jan Blachowicz is currently in. Then we move on to, I guess, an intriguing fight between Henry Cejudo and Payne Talbott. And don't be mistaken by the physique on display in this picture from Henry Cejudo. I saw an image of him on Fight Week. The man, if that's how he looks, the man is looking pudgy. He looks like he's fighting for a paycheck, really. And Payne Talbott looked so good last time out, and it's really hard not to pick Payne Talbott in this one. He showed leaps and bounds of improvement in his grappling, unless Raoni Barcelos is just extremely underrated in that regard. But he looks so good against Felipe Lima, great on the feet. But honestly, his grappling impressed me more than his striking in that fight. I feel like he was actually getting pieced up at times on the feet by Lima. But Henry Cejudo was just too short. He'll have a really hard time actually landing on Payne Talbott. He could wrestle fuck Payne Talbott to a decision, but ultimately I see Payne Talbott doing enough damage to win a decision here. I would pick a knockout, but Henry Cejudo has such a crazy blockhead that it's just hard to see him getting knocked out, right? He's a Mexican dude who's short, stocky, and has a big blockhead. It's tough to see him get knocked out, but I'm going to pick Payne Talbott by a decision. I'll probably say 29-28. If he got the knockout here, it wouldn't exactly surprise me. Like I said, man, skill for skill, right? In his prime, obviously Cejudo would have ragdolled Payne Talbott and done him way worse than even Barcelos was able to do at this stage in his career. I just can't back Henry Cejudo, even though he had a close fight with Song Yadong, right? He was pretty competitive with Song Yadong. I don't know, man. I don't see him winning this one personally. Then we get, honestly, I was talking about Nazem Sadykhov being guaranteed fight of the night in Ziam. This fight is also up there. I kind of forgot that it was on this card, in all honesty. And this is one of the fights on the card, maybe the fight on the card that I'm most in the middle about. I have no clue how this one goes. If it was a 5-rounder, I would probably pick Brandon Moreno rather convincingly, but it's a 3-rounder. And who beats Brandon Moreno? Who has beaten Brandon Moreno in recent years? Like Brandon Royval had a pretty good fight with him, but who has Brandon Moreno beaten recently? Was it Amir Albazi? Albazi looked like shit in that fight, man. Moreno was able to do whatever he wanted. And Tatsuro Taira, considering his last performance, he looked leveled up, right? That sniper-like right hand, although I'm not sure how much it'll really trouble Brandon Moreno. And Brandon can grapple with the best of him. The man subbed Figueiredo, for fuck's sake, dude. When it comes like skill for skill, Brandon Moreno can do it all. Never been finished as far as I know as well. This is a really hard one to pick. It really is. It just depends on how upgraded Tatsuro Taira comes in here, and or how high level is his grappling really, because if he goes out there and he actually subs Brandon Moreno, then we could have somebody who could go in there and actually match Pantoja in that department. I'm not sure if I see it though, but it's a 3-rounder. I don't know. Brandon Moreno definitely has the boxing advantage, but Tatsuro Taira is a bit of a sharpshooter. But he showed such an improvement last time out. I didn't think that he would be able to put Young Sung Park down with like the first right hand that he landed. But he looked fast and sharp with that right. Is it enough for Brandon Moreno's big Mexican chin? I'm not too sure. The experience factor for Moreno is significant. And he's just really good. He's really good. But I feel like this is the fight where maybe we finally see him get overtaken by the younger fighter. Is this the time? I don't know. It's so hard to pick against Brandon Moreno. You guys need to understand, picking Tatsuro Taira in this one is extremely risky, but it's based on a feeling. It's based on a feeling. And I feel like Tatsuro Taira will win this fight by grappling heavily and simply just getting the better of the grappling exchanges. Because as I said on the feet, I don't like this one for Taira. I think Brandon Moreno's boxing, it's too sharp. He throws effective combinations. He goes to the body well. If this is a 5-rounder, I would for sure pick Brandon Moreno. But I'm going to apprehensively back Tatsuro Taira to win a decision here against Brandon Moreno. But another fight that has Fight of the Night written all over it. Crazy matchup here. I love it. And then we get into the co-main event of the evening. Oh, man. Alexander Pantoja versus Joshua Van. Now, Pantoja is one of my favorite champions in the UFC, without a doubt. One of my favorite champions in the UFC. The man fights like a challenger every single time. He does not fight like he's looking to play it safe at all and just retain his belt. No. The man fights like he's trying to take something from you. He comes forward quite recklessly, in all honesty, and that style has led to many predictors in the past picking against him, against fighters who have a significant striking advantage, who have big power on the feet, like Kai Kara-France. A lot of people thought that he would be the first one to get Pantoja out of there. I disagreed, but in this case, I can kind of see it. I just feel like Joshua Van is the best boxer that we've ever seen at 125. He is. He's one of the best strikers we've ever seen at 125. He can punish the forward-moving style of Pantoja with those knee stomps that he kind of unlocked against Royval the first time around. He was so quick and snappy with them. Great timing on them. Imagine he's throwing those against Pantoja while he's just wading forward into the fire. Or the counter boxing of Joshua Van. Joshua Van does not appear to be stifled by big moments at all. He really doesn't seem to be stifled. I mean, he took the fight against Brandon Royval. People were counting him out like crazy. I picked him in that fight because I backed my boy Joshua Van every single time, right? But he went out there and he beat convincingly. I know it was a great fight, right? One of the greatest fights of all time, realistically. But he went out there and he beat the number one contender, clear number one contender in Brandon Royval, a very tricky fighter to go out there and beat. And he beat him. He did it on short notice. And even though I love Pantoja, and I back him always. I seem to always back him. I'm not sure if I've ever picked against him, to be honest. But in this case, I can see it. I can definitely see it. Joshua Van, yes, he has some of the best takedown defense in the division. He's essentially like a flyweight Max Holloway. High volume, crazy hands, and he attacks the body. It's the way that Joshua Van strikes, his shot selection, the way he mixes up the target. It just makes him very different, right? He struggled against Brandon Moreno. Some people thought that Brandon Moreno deserved to beat him, right? But you could see it. The way that Brandon Moreno fought Pantoja. You survive on the ground, you get back to your feet, and then you kind of have a sitting duck in front of you. And now, not necessarily a sitting duck because it's Pantoja. And obviously, he's never a sitting duck. The man's able to reach down within and pick out these second, third, fourth wins at any moment during the fight. But we even saw it against Kai Kara-France last time out. Now, he wasn't completely gassed, but after these long grappling exchanges for Pantoja where he doesn't successfully get you out of there, he appears to almost take the rest of the round off in order to recalibrate himself and get some energy back. But then you look at Kai Kara-France and his shot selection in these moments, he was not doing the right things, but you have Joshua Van in front of you, much more calculated, right? He'll be attacking the body while Pantoja's sucking wind, right? Not just loading up on big overhands like Kai Kara-France was doing. Dude, he'll be attacking the legs with those knee stomps, hopefully, and just throwing high volume on Pantoja and punishing him. Like, Joshua Van has the highest strike per minute of any fighter of all time. But then on the flip side of that, I think back to the Ray Soraya fight, right? The last matchup of his where there was that significant takedown, that significant submission threat. And the fight went all 3 rounds, and Joshua Van was reduced to about half of his normal strike output, right? So you could look at that as the fact that, there was a takedown threat there, and he was slightly frozen up. But then again, he still threw decent volume for most fighters' standards, but he was reduced to much lesser volume, as I said. However, he didn't exactly have to take many risks against Ray Soraya, because Ray Soraya was not looking to fight in there at all. He was fighting like a scared opponent, and it is hard to land high volume on fighters who are fighting scared and who are just circling the octagon constantly and not looking to exchange whatsoever, not leave themselves open at all. Pantoja is not that kind of fighter. He will leave himself open, maybe against his better judgment here, because he's going in there against somebody who's as dangerous as Joshua Van. And I just respect Pantoja so much. I don't want to pick him to lose here, but I have a really good feeling about Joshua Van in this one. And I can see him making the right decisions with his shot selection, with his volume, and with his ability to fight off takedowns. Not just that, but get back up to his feet, right? He's shown such a high level ability in that regard. And as I said, I just feel like he has all of the tools, all of the shot selection in order to punish Pantoja's heavy energy expenditure in those early rounds. And Pantoja just doesn't have that Merab type of gas tank. He puts on a pace like he does, but then he doesn't. However, he really lets out a lot of energy because he's always trying to finish you, and you can never not respect that. But it gets him into trouble in these fights, right? We even saw it in the 5th round against Brandon Royval, man. If Brandon Royval was a heavier hitter, we could have seen Pantoja TKO'd in that fight, man. Because Brandon was peppering him for pretty much the entirety of round 5 while he was completely gassed out. And that was his one opportunity, of course, because Pantoja dominated like pretty much the remainder of the fight. But those moments will present themselves, and they seem to present themselves against Pantoja. And Joshua Van is crisp enough with his hands, right? And he has deceptive power as well. It's not like he has fucking pillow punch. He's not a pillow puncher. He's a small guy, of course, but he's not a pillow puncher by any means. And it's just that volume and the speed, the counter punching. Part of me wants to choose Joshua Van by some kind of a late TKO, but realistically, man, I'm actually going to choose Joshua Van by decision here. I'm picking Joshua Van by decision. I believe that he will do enough damage on the feet to Pantoja over the course of 5 rounds to win certain rounds very clearly, but I think it'll be close regardless. However, if Joshua Van beats Pantoja and is the first man to finish Pantoja just with that volume of his, the shot selection, like I said, I think that's a difference maker here. It would not even surprise me because Joshua Van is that guy. And it's very easy to go back and look and pick out the fact that he lost to Charles Johnson so many fights ago. But he's fought like 5 or 6 times since that loss, man. And he just beat the number 1 contender. So I'm sorry. Save it. Joshua Van is legit. I know he's young. I know this is a huge step up for him. I know he's young. But the man has been coming into every fight looking better and better and better. And for me, he's primed for a title at this. He's primed for it, man. I don't want to pick against Pantoja. Like I said, I love him and I respect him so much. I think he's always been underrated in the pound-for-pound rankings. But I think it's Joshua Van's time, dude. And maybe you're saying I'm biased because I'm a huge Joshua Van fan. He has the exact type of style that I love to watch inside the octagon. But I just have a feeling here. I have a feeling, and this one will be a war. This one will be such a sick fight. Regardless, another fight of the year, fight of the night contender, as I keep saying. But then we get on to the main event. Oh, boy. I got to see Petr Yan against Merab once again, guys. The first fight took place before I had a YouTube channel. And like, I'll come out and say it right now. I hated Merab after their first fight. I did. I hated seeing what Merab did to Peter. I did. I hated it so much. Of course, he's grown on me since then, after what he did to Umar, after what he did to Sean O'Malley, and the fact that his fight style and his overall personality has won me over. It's won me over 100%. And it's so hard to pick against him. Like, realistically, if anyone's going to go out there, go against all logic and pick Petr Yan, it'll probably be me. But even I can't fucking do that here, man. Even I can't do that. I'm picking Merab. I'm picking Merab by decision. I don't think he'll finish Petr Yan. But here's the thing, man. Petr Yan legitimately has the best chance at beating Merab out of any 135er there is, in my opinion. I don't care what anyone says. People will say, oh no, it's Umar because he took 2 rounds off him early. Okay, I don't give a shit, man. Merab, in my opinion, would finish Umar a second time around. Right, with how gassed out Umar was in their first fight, Merab finishes him a second time. He does. I don't think Umar, after his last couple of performances, right, people will point to Peter Yan and say, oh, he went 3 rounds with Marcus McGee. Yeah, but he was relatively dominant there. Or he went all 5 with Figgy. Well, he was dominant there too. Or he went all 3 with Song Yadong. Well, okay, wasn't exactly dominant, but he won rounds 2 and 3 convincingly. Who has Umar been tested by recently? He was almost finished by Mario Batista. Okay, and he looked absolutely gassed in that fight. I'm sorry, man, but if you're going to go out there and tell me that Umar has the best chance against Merab, I think you're crazy. I think Peter Yan is the tailor-made fighter to beat Merab, if there is a tailor-made fighter to beat Merab. But even having said that, Merab will still win this one. He's looked better and better and better. The only thing that I could see getting Merab hurt in this fight is if Peter Yan really comes on here on the pressure from the first minute. He has to be on the pressure, throwing big shots, looking to hurt Merab early. Over the course of 5 rounds, I just don't seeing this one going much different than their first fight. Although then people will point to the Peter Yan injuries apparently, but then Merab also allegedly had injuries in that fight too, man. So I don't like to point to the injuries. Although it was clear that Peter Yan was a lot less active with the left hand, of course, wasn't throwing it very much. So maybe there was an injury there, but whatever, it does not matter. Merab has also gotten so much better since then, but maybe so has Peter Yan, right? But what could get Merab really hurt here is if he trusts his striking too much, because we saw it against Corey. He actually hurt Corey, right? The first fighter to really stun Corey like that. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. But it shows that Merab is really putting sting on his punches. And on top of that, he's more willing of a striker now. He's a lot more willing. He trusts his striking a lot more. It seems like he is trying to be more entertaining. And he's actually putting in an effort to be entertaining in the middle of dominating his opponents. And that could get Merab hurt here because Peter Yan is such a great striker, right? He needs to attack the legs early on in the fight. Take away some movement, take away some power in those takedown shots from Merab, and also punish Merab when they're in clinch range, man. Peter is one of the most prolific clinch fighters in the UFC. Showed that against Davidson Figueiredo. He showed that quite heavily against Marcus McGee. The way he's able to, get the collar tie and land shots, right? He's very good at dealing damage within the clinch. And he also shouldn't be afraid to go for those trips and throws that he likes to go for within the clinch and just shoot for his own takedowns, man. He really has to mix it up with Merab. It won't be enough to just strike with him. It just simply won't be enough. I think people forget, right? Everyone says that he dominated Peter, but Peter also fought off like 50-something takedowns. I swear it was 50 or maybe 40-something in that fight. An incredible feat of takedown defense from Peter Yan here. And Merab has not been putting in the same type of takedown volume, so Peter may not have to fight off as many takedowns as he did in that first fight. But then again, we haven't really seen Merab really troubled on the feet, so Merab hasn't really felt the need to throw high volumes of takedowns because his last few opponents really haven't given him much trouble on the feet. Regardless, Sean O'Malley couldn't do it. Sandhagen, he landed a few good shots, but really didn't trouble Merab much. Fucking Umar could barely trouble him as well, or really couldn't trouble him much, aside from like one right hand he landed in like this second round, I believe. And Peter has all the tools to do it. He does. It's just impossible to pick. How do you pick against this guy? This will be his 4th title defense this year. Insane, unprecedented, completely ridiculous, man. And the only reason why the UFC is even allowing him to do that is because they want him to fucking lose, man. Like, Dana White does not want this man as champion any longer. I don't really understand it because Merab is such a lovable figure, right? He's pushing towards potential GOAT status for me with another win over Peter Yan, who I rate so highly. I believe that he does comfortably move into like top 3 potential GOAT status, especially with the activity and the amount of title defenses and the dominance and the resume. Man, yes, I'm picking Merab, man. I'm picking Merab. Decision over Peter Yan. But this will be, for me, the not only the best fight of Merab's career potentially, but the closest fight of his career. But guys, if Peter Yan goes out there and beats Merab, it would be the most bittersweet thing for me because Peter Yan has been my favorite fighter for so long now, at least the last like 5 years. I've just been such an admirer of Peter Yan's style, and as a newfound fan of Merab, this one would be incredibly bittersweet. But I just feel like Merab's been so damn dominant recently that people are now just looking for reasons to pick against him. So I could see a lot of people actually going out there and saying that Peter Yan will beat him just in hopes that they're correct. But logically, Merab does something similar to Peter Yan here, but we will get a much closer contest. I just can't see Peter Yan keeping up with the pace for 5 rounds. Maybe it's competitive for the first 3, but then Peter starts to wilt a little bit, Merab starts to take over. That's kind of how I see this one going. I don't see him finishing Peter. Peter's a very tough fighter to finish. Very incredibly hard fighter to sub as well. He had Aljamain Sterling on his back for like 10 minutes, I swear. and he stayed safe. So yeah, I don't see Merab finishing him whatsoever. But imagine he goes out there and he KOs Peter. If he does that, yeah, man, just call him the fucking GOAT at that point. But that does conclude my thoughts, man, and my predictions on UFC 323. Let me know in the comment section below whether you agree, whether you disagree, what your predictions are. Just let me know whatever your thoughts are in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.